In today's lesson, we're going to conduct a golf swing analysis. It's a young student, Daniel. He's 18 years old. He's just started playing competitions and he's really keen to get his handicap down. He's got a bit of a slice going on, so we're going to help him to correct that and help him with some drills so that he can hit the ball straighter. We're going to help him with some power as well. He's definitely not using the strength that he has available to him. So we're going to package that up and put that into a free download PDF, a training guide for you. The link is in the description below and at the end of this video. G'day golfers, I'm Glen Haynes. Welcome to Aussie Golf Pros, where we help you be the best golfer you can be. Let's begin with the most important aspect of Daniel's game, and that's the slice. We want Daniel to understand why he's slicing it and what he can do about it. Now, we're not going to get too complicated here. The number one cause of a slice is the club face is open at impact. There are other factors that are contributing to the fact that the ball keeps curving to the right for Daniel, but the number one thing here is that the club face, instead of being square to the target as we hit the golf ball, it's a few degrees open. So essentially, Daniel's setup is quite athletic, it's not bad, it's got a fairly orthodox grip, so we have to look at the swing to work out when that club face is opening in the swing. So in his takeaway, he gets a little bit behind him, but the club face is fairly square. The point that is really a problem is as Daniel comes into the downswing, the club face is too open here. So what we're going to focus on is where that club face is coming down into the golf ball and just after impact. Now, we don't just want Daniel to flip his wrists and release the club a little bit more. Of course, that can get the ball back onto target. The problem with that is because the club face is so open as Daniel comes into the golf ball, if he just releases it really hard, he's going to get a very high spinning ball flight, and it's not going to be very consistent. We want the club face in a stronger position in the downswing. So instead of, at this point here, Daniel's club face is very open just before impact. It's pointing way out to the right here. And we actually want that club face turned down a little bit. I wouldn't say square. We definitely don't want a square to square club face through impact. It needs to rotate, but there's just too much rotation necessary for Daniel to get that ball back on target. It's not going to be consistent if he just flips it. So we want that club face pointing a little bit more down. So how do we do that? What we need Daniel to do is have a little bit more extension. So this is this hinging of the right wrist into the downswing, and that's going to get that club face in a stronger position. Daniel's right wrist, this position here, it's very straight. So the club face is very open because of that right wrist being quite flat. Let's focus on that trail wrist, a little bit more extension here, a bit more cocking. That's going to get that club face in a stronger position, and he won't have to work so hard to square the club face up through impact. Now, the other thing I want to say here is about the release and about squaring up the club face through impact. A client asked me, is it the lead arm that does most of the work, or is it the trail arm? Well, it's both. Both arms and hands and wrists and forearms, everything is going to help us to square up the club face. It's not just the hands and arms. It's the rotating, it's the ground force, turning the body through, turning the trunk around to the target. We want everything to contribute towards that rotation of the club face so that it's stable, so that it's repeatable, so that it's consistent. So the legs, the hips, the trunk, everything's going to turn, the arms are going to rotate, we're going to release that club with the wrists and the forearms, and everything together means that we're going to have a really stable rotation of the club face, much more penetrating ball flight rather than these high weak fades and high spinning shots that a lot of golfers hit. Now, the other thing that we're going to do here is we're going to give Daniel a drill so that he can take it to the range, having something to work on, rather than just try to correct this out in the golf course. Because it's a little bit difficult to do to get this club face in a different position into the downswing. So what we're going to do is just some half swings. I'm just going to do one here out in the golf course. So we're just going to get to this position here, a bit of an L position I like to call it, and let's make sure that this wrist is extended. Get into here and then swing through to, again, another half swing position, but we're going to overdo it. We're going to see if we can do the opposite shot to what Daniel's hitting. He's hitting a high weak fade. we're going to hit a low draw off to the left-hand side. Not a massive hook, but I want Daniel to see that ball curving to the left a little bit so that he can see the ball fly and feel the difference of the club face through impact. So it's going to look something like this. Just a half swing, get to here, stop, make sure that we've got this right wrist in position, and then turn everything through towards the target. Stop, turn. So no real effort, just making sure that everything is rotating through. We're learning to get that club face to come around the body with everything, so it's nice and stable. And I want Daniel to do 20 of those. Now, just at that speed, just getting that club face in a stronger position, not really having to work too hard, not having to flip the hands to get that club face square. And after Daniel's done 20 or so of those, then we're going to go back to hitting a straight shot. Still with the half swing and maybe without the pause this time, still focusing on getting that extension of that trail wrist and then turning everything through, releasing that club, getting that club face to rotate through impact. But this time we're not going to overdo it and hit it with a closed face like I did just then. We're just going to try and hit a straight shot with that half swing. Now it's really important to do this in stages, to keep it nice and short to start with, to give the player time to process and actually control something consciously. Because as soon as we get into the full swing and full speed, the subconscious is going to kick in and any player is going to revert back to what they've been doing, which in Daniel's case is leaving that club face open, getting that club face really open here. We're going to fall back into older habits. And it's really important to take that differential type training to the driving range and be patient with it. Don't expect it to happen straight away. It is going to take a little bit of time because we are essentially unlearning something. We're breaking a habit and we need to do the exact opposite. We need to exaggerate it to get that out of the routine, change the routine. And only then, after we've done a few of those, then we can start to get into a fuller swing and really challenge ourselves to see if we can produce what we've been learning and changing in a fuller golf swing. So that's the club face, and essentially that's going to help Daniel hit the ball more consistently, straighter and further. But there are some power losses that we see with Daniel's golf swing as well, which would be remiss of me not to mention. So essentially what we see here is that Daniel doesn't really complete his backswing. So he gets to here, sort of a 3/4 turn, and then he's starting with the lower half, but it gets a little bit out of sync. We need Daniel to complete the backswing. So getting right to here, even if there's a little bit of a pause, getting his back to the target, a little bit more rotation rather than sway. Daniel tends to sway his hips a little bit. We want a little bit more rotation, a nice big coil, completing that backswing, and then drive with that lower half. And not just a case of just spinning and turning the hips. We want more ground force energy, really feeling the ground through the feet. We want pressure here, pressure into the ground. At the moment, Daniel is just going through the motions, just a little bit of a sway and some turn and then turning. It's all just spinning. There's no real force there. We want that force into the ground so that we can then drive up and through and help Daniel to generate a lot more club head speed more easily from the ground up. Just going through the motions a little bit. There's some good stuff going on, but no real ground force. And that's important if we want to reach our potential with our distance. And Daniel's a fairly new golfer, so it's important for him to get stuck into learning some power early on, not just about control. Simple way of doing that for Daniel is the step drill. So what we're going to do here is come back with the backswing, so we're completing that backswing a little bit more, and then stomp. So we're really feeling some ground force energy. So a little bit of a lift. It only has to be a couple of inches. You can bring right back to here if you want, but just a little bit of a lift, and then making sure that that stomp is there before impact. So it's stomp, clip. Get that sequence, and I think Daniel will be able to handle that because he's actually separating quite well. We just want more ground force, more complete turn, more ground force, and therefore much more power into the shot. Let's see if we can do that drill with the golf ball. So a little bit of a step. And that's going to help Daniel to really feel the ground much more, to complete the backswing and get a proper shift of weight with rotating rather than swaying and sliding about. and to be a little bit more dynamic, getting that power right up through the body rather than just going through the motions, because I'm sure he's capable of a lot higher club head speed without winding himself up too much. Our viewers who are students of the game and students of the golf swing will notice some other things that we could work on with Daniel's swing. We know that he's early extending a little bit, and we know he has this little bit of an over-the-top motion. But it's really important to sequence these things, to focus on the club face first, to focus on some ground force energy and learn to generate some power. And I think what we'll find is when Daniel improves the club face position and starts to use his lower half more effectively, then those other parts of the golf swing will improve as well. So it's important to sequence them correctly. Club face first, that's for sure. And I'm very pleased to relay that Daniel reports having much more control over his shots and has dropped to a 25 handicap. Fantastic effort, Daniel. And we can see that his club face is in an improved and squarer position, and that's leading to his straighter shots. We'll save that extra shot soon, Daniel. Well done. Now, if your problem is hooking rather than slicing, watch this video next. That's all about why you might be hooking the golf ball. There's your free download, the training guide from today's lesson, and it's also in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. We look forward to your company next week. Are you the best golfer you can be?